Hi, it's the Herd. It's hard to find a person that doesn't totally love the holiday spirit. And while everybody's into the season of giving, don't forget, the best way to ring in the holidays by sending your friends and loved ones a beautiful and vibrant bouquet. Do it from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers.com has a vast selection of elegant roses, lilies, daisies. The best part, it starts at just $29.99. Delivering a 1-800-Flowers seasonal bouquet to a friend or loved one, just like a perfect way to let them know what they mean to you during the holidays. Because the holidays, certain people are busier than other people, like my wife. She's busy. I'm not as busy. She's busy, doing a lot of things. 1-800-Flowers delivers to my wife. 100% smile guarantee. The only company I trust to deliver fresh from the field holiday flowers. All right, you want to get a beautiful and a vibrant bouquet starting at just $29.99? Go to 1-800-Flowers.com and then get your mobile device in your hand or whatever's on your desktop. Click the radio icon, enter Herd. Pretty simple, 1-800-Flowers.com. Don't forget, click the radio icon. Enter the code HERD, H-E-R-D.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd starts now.
This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 with Christine Leahy joining me today, surprisingly on a Tuesday. We're jammed today. Peter King is going to join us in 20 minutes. Packed. Joe Buck will be on the show today on the couch as well. Very excited to be here. Yes, I was excited. I was on Twitter last night because Andrew Luck was amazing, and you know I love Andrew Luck. But what I really love, Christine, I want to start the show with this today. Here's what I really love. I like consistent people. I like consistent people. Okay. So what I like are people that are into the right stuff, and they're consistent. So my friends, like the guys I hang out with, they're into their families, and they show up on time. They're into the right stuff, and they're consistent. And it's so funny who we've decided to pick on, Andrew Luck, and who we've always decided to defend, Cam Newton. And let's go back to what I like. I like consistent performers in my life, and I like people who like the right stuff. If you're a guy that's into cars, jewelry, you're not my guy. Are you into your kids? You're my kind of guy. Are you into your family? You're my kind of guy. Are you into doing smart stuff? You're my kind of guy. Do you hang around with good people? You're my kind of guy. Andrew Luck, last night, 9th career game with at least 4 touchdown passes. That's double Cam. But we love Cam and defend him in every turn, and Andrew Luck, we pick on. Andrew Luck is in his 5th year. If you just take away 7 games last year when he had a lacerated kidney, so let's take the body of his work and give him a break on the year he had a lacerated kidney. Cam's in his 6th year. So let's take away last year, that great year when they faced the easiest schedule in the league. You do realize what you get. Andrew Luck, with 2 offensive Pro Bowlers in his career, Cam's got 3.5 times more. Andrew Luck has a 2-to-1 win-to-loss ratio. Cam's sub 500. Andrew Luck, and that's, remember, Cam with better players. Andrew Luck has 110 touchdowns, 50 interceptions, 2-to-1, over 2-to-1. Cam's 96-62, under 2-to-1. Andrew Luck's got 40 more passing yards a game, higher passer rating, and he's not concerned about fashion. Cam's concerned about a lot of non-football stuff. Andrew Luck is also, according to the stats, improving every year. His completion percentage has gone up every year. Cam's is regressing, a career low this year. By the way, Andrew Luck also had to replace Peyton Manning. I don't know. Little pressure. They got rid of Peyton Manning, who saved football in Indy, and Andrew Luck had to walk in and replace him. That's like following Jerry Seinfeld on stage. That's like following Adele at a concert. Cam replaced Jimmy Clausen. Boy, those are mighty shoes to fill. Andrew Luck is in a different class than Cam Newton, and we pick him apart. Cam Newton is interested in so many things that aren't connected to football, I've lost count. Andrew wants to be a football player. Cam wants to be a star. I get it. It's America. Pays a lot of money. But if you look, Andrew Luck has never had an elite head coach, an elite offensive line, an elite GM, an elite defense, an elite running game. 55 straight games, Andrew Luck didn't have a 100-yard rusher. Cam last year, 16 for 16 games, had a 100-yard rusher. Who's played with better? Cam. Who's more consistent? Luck. Who's had a better coach? Cam. Who's had a better defense? Cam. Who's more consistent? Luck. Whose numbers going up? Luck. Who's regressing? Cam. But we've decided we like Cam, and we've decided we don't like Andrew Luck. What you watched last night, they should put that thing away for future generations to watch. Through from the pocket, running, through left, through right, through accurately, through over the top, through underneath. But we've decided we just don't like him. Well, he hasn't done anything. That's what you were saying about LeBron before the first title. He hadn't done anything yet. That's what you were saying about Tiger before he won the first U.S. Open and Masters. If you watch football and you get football, here's what you need to know about Andrew Luck. He's consistent, and he likes the right stuff. He likes the right stuff. He's got a book club online. Sharing books with kids, community, family. Why did I fall in love with Russell Wilson? Children's hospitals. Why was I turned off by Cap? Look at my cars, hats, and shoes. I like guys who are consistent, and I like guys who like the right stuff. If you don't like Andrew Luck, that's a you problem. So I saw something else last night that really jumped out to me. That, let's go back to what I just said. I like people who care about the right stuff. I thought there was a very interesting moment in the NBA last night. Klay Thompson erupted for 60 points for the Warriors. But the Warriors' culture is, we care about the right stuff. And they sat him in the fourth. Because the game was out of hand and didn't matter. It didn't matter. Russell Westbrook had his 6th consecutive triple-double. And we know that means a lot to him. He's going to go grab that stat sheet. He's going to stay in and get that thing. Russell Westbrook is 1994 basketball. He's Michael Jordan in the mid-'80s. Will, the Tiger, determination, sheer force. He's number one in the pager business. The Warriors are the iPhone 7. Sharing, high efficiency, passing, easier, averaging 8 more assists per game than any other team in the league. 10 more than you know who. Russell Westbrook is a 1988 force of nature. He's the Tiger, sheer determination. I'll burrow through a wall. Give me a battleship. I'll put my head down and burrow through it. Good luck in the playoffs. You're going to be worn out. Klay Thompson scored 60 last night and dribbled the ball 11 times. Think about that. 11 times. That's what it's like when you play with smart guys who care about the right stuff. Finding the open man. But Colin, Westbrook doesn't play with great players. Brah, he did. And he left town to play with guys who have an iPhone 7, not who want to be number one in the 1994 pager business. Russell Westbrook is playing mid-'90s, late '80s hoops. Number stats. They had a great player. And the great player said, I don't care about points, man. I want to show up to the arena, have fun, share, spread the ball out. Klay Thompson had 60 points. He dribbled the ball 11 times. That's one possession for Westbrook. Work smarter, not harder. There was a play last night in that Warrior game. Watch this play. This is why Kevin Durant left. This play. Watch it happen.
And a tip ball by the Warriors. Draymond Green to Curry. Lob back to Red, who dumped it down. He dumped it down. Curry caught it in the air and threw it back, and Durant slammed it. Drop the mic. Go home.
Remember when LeBron and D-Wade and Bosh played together that first year? Do you remember that year? Go back to that year before the title. They were doing that stuff. That's why guys like playing at the Olympics, because great players get the bigger picture. Great players get... We watched the Globetrotters as kids. This is what NBA guys do at practice. They screw around sometimes and do the alley-oop stuff. The guys who get it in the NBA, they don't care about stats. They want to win games. They want to have fun. They want to get easier shots. When you watched the Warriors last night, it spoke volumes that they didn't play Klay in the fourth. Of course they didn't. Why? They're not chasing stats. They're not there to humiliate people, build their wardrobe up, their catalog up. Here's Steve Kerr after the game. Why didn't you play Klay?
It's significant for the individual, it doesn't matter to me, like, what number it is, but it matters to Klay. It matters to every player who's playing. There are individual milestones that are, important to players, and I respect that as long as it's within the context of the game, which is why he didn't play, in the last part of the game, fourth quarter.
Did you notice how Steve Kerr used his hands a lot and was almost nervous? Did you watch? Steve Kerr's the smartest guy I've probably ever covered, and yet there he kind of stumbled around. Why? Because Steve Kerr didn't give a rip about that, but he wanted to protect his player and say, it's very important. In the context of that moment, there is no reason to play Klay Thompson. It would be selfish. It would be individual. And these guys have created a culture where, did you see how happy KD and Steph were for Klay? Did you watch how happy they were for him? Mm-hmm. That's how you play basketball. It's not the Kobe. It's not the Melo. It's not the Harden. It's not the Westbrook. That's how you play the game in 2016. That's the iPhone 7. You can stay in the pager business. So great. So remarkable.
I can't wait to go at it with you on this.
So great. Not that they should be sizing their rings, but it is working perfectly for Durant. Like, he's having more fun than he thought he would ever have. He's having so much fun.
Wait, now the Warriors are going to win? I thought the
Cavs
were
going to get to
win.
the finals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just finals appearance rings.
Yeah,
not championship rings.
LeBron's the best player in the history of ever, but so much fun. But look, Westbrook will probably set a bunch of records. Slam Magazine's probably got a 13-page article on him next month. Maybe 15. Give me more pages. Slam Magazine. It'll be glossy.
What did Slam Magazine do to you?
This is the Herd Podcast.
Lamar Jackson's going to be at the Heisman ceremony, and Deshaun Watson's going to be at the Heisman ceremony. And I guess people are upset that Michigan's Jabril Peppers is going to be at the Heisman ceremony. All right. You do get it a TV show, right? So the Grammys just nominated for Album of the Year Beyonce, Drake, Justin Bieber, and Adele. You do get the Grammys is a TV show. This begins another episode of Why I Hate the Heisman.
Now it's time for another edition of Colin Hates the Heisman.
First of all, it's subjective to begin with. So why not Jabril Peppers? He's going to go like third in the draft. He's a remarkable player. I've seen him on TV like 6-7 times. He's unbelievable. He didn't have a ton of interceptions, but sometimes the great corners don't get them because nobody throws in their direction. If you looked at tape and you were playing Michigan, you'd say, let's throw away from Jabril Peppers. But I always wondered this, and Christine, maybe you can enlighten me. When people talk about Colin, pop music, pop stands for popular. Mm-hmm. Like the Grammys are a television show, and the Heisman is a television show. In a year like this year, when there's just a bunch of guys, why couldn't I bring on a guy from a big program who's a defensive guy, who's sort of interesting, instead of giving you another quarterback from another program that went 8-4? The Grammys is a television show. The Heisman is an awful television show, which needs life and controversy. If I ran the Heisman and I worked for the other network, I would put one guy in every year that was controversial.
I completely disagree with you.
Why?
Especially when you put it in terms of the Grammys, because I think both awards have a certain prestige about them. And if you just put someone in for the shock value, it takes down the level of prestige of just being nominated.
Well, Archie Griffin won it twice, and he admits today that compared to winning and beating Michigan, it's not as meaningful. So for the players, it doesn't mean that much. For the media, it's just a media show. Like, what is the meaning of the Heisman?
Think about it. It's like if you were a musician, I don't know what the radio equivalent would be, or TV, I guess an Emmy, but if you had worked your entire life and the ultimate thing you could be recognized for was a Grammy, and then they're just letting someone be nominated in that category for the shock value for the television.
Yeah, but we do. It's an interesting philosophical question.
Right.
Like, I was never a believer in awards in this business. Like, I can tell you who has it, and I can watch TV for 5 minutes and go, she has it, he has it, she doesn't, he doesn't. Who cares about awards? Like, are people defined by Grammys? I understand a producer. because nobody, the audience, like Quincy Jones, if it wasn't for all the Grammys, I don't know the music industry.
Oh, to get the recognition.
But
because
if you're
your
a
voice isn't
rock and
on the
roll
song.
band, you're a big star.
Mm-hmm.
You get the fame, you get the money, you get the sales, you're adored, and you're doing unbelievable music.
Mm-hmm.
What does the Grammy mean? For the producer, for the lighting guy, I understand, like for the Oscars. Don't we all know Morgan Freeman can act? Like, does he need that little body on his?
I'm not sure, because I'm with you, and that's why I said, I guess the Emmy, because for us, I don't really think about that either, winning an award. Maybe it's different for an actor and a musician.
Meryl Streep 16 times has been nominated and didn't win. I don't think anything less of her. Like, she's great. Next. Like Ed Norton. Does he have an Oscar? No. He's great. DiCaprio, great. Like, you can act or not.
But then when does it stop? If you're putting in that one person for the shock value, when does it stop? You could just turn the entire thing into a joke.
It's not like Jabril Peppers can't play. He's going to go like third in the draft.
But if you open that door...
Which is what? Put a great player in for the TV value and people to talk about it? That's not a bad door.
Then how many more people are eventually going to be put in for the
If you bring 5 people a year, and every year you want a unique candidate that gets people talking, it is a television show, right?
So what's to stop it from the next year being 2?
Why not do that?
Because then you're weeding out the people who actually deserve to be nominated.
So that goes back to my least favorite word in the American vocabulary. Deserve. What is deserve? Nobody deserves this award. I mean, this year's class, Deshaun Watson's had an off year.
But if your son played football and he had the chance to win the Heisman, that would mean something to you.
I got to tell you, it's really funny. I'm not an award guy at all. You know me. I'm not an award.
I know you're not, but I would think.
Do you know, like
if your son could win the Heisman, that would make you pretty excited.
It wouldn't mean a thing.
Really?
It would not. Now, what would mean a lot to me is, first of all, if my son was available, I would want him to go to an academic power that played football at a good level. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, Stanford, consider Stanford. Ivy League, the football's not good enough. If my son was a great quarterback, I would say, really consider academics. That's the first thing So the most important thing was, your football career is going to last 8 years. Get a degree. The second thing is, let's go to a university where football's important, but it's not everything. I wouldn't let my son play in the SEC.
Okay.
It's not, football is too important. I think in the Big Ten, you've got a balance between academics and football. I would want my son to go experience college, care about football deeply at Wisconsin, but it doesn't define him. I don't want the academics and football to be massively out of whack. And then after that, I couldn't give a rip about the awards. All Big Ten. Again, maybe I'm wrong here. Are you an awards person?
Not really, no.
Have you ever won an award? I've won a couple. I don't even know where.
Yeah. I won one last year, and it meant that one actually meant a lot.
Okay. What was that one?
It was the Gracie.
That was a big one. I was there for that one.
You actually and presented me with the award. I think it depends. I think it depends on the award.
So you don't like my idea of, I think Jabril Peppers, I'm like, well, it's like putting Justin Bieber. I don't care. Like, pop music's popular. If the audience says we like it, put it up for a Grammy. Jabril Peppers, Michigan.
That's different. I guess if you're going to define pop music that way.
Well, Jabril Peppers is one of the 5 best players in college football. You know the guy that should be up there that's not, because we don't give defensive guys any credit? That defensive lineman for Alabama, Jonathan Allen, is the closest thing I've seen in college from Reggie White. Jonathan Allen is unblockable at the college level. But because we're so enamored with quarterbacks that play for, that put up big numbers, I think we should do every year? One defensive player should be in every single class. You're going to tell me there's not one defensive guy? Steve Ettman at Washington wasn't. Leroy Selman at Oklahoma shouldn't have been. Chris Spielman at Ohio State didn't deserve it. Jabril Peppers doesn't deserve it. That kid for Alabama, Reuben Foster, the linebacker, they don't deserve it. One defensive player a year has to be in. And by the way, there's usually about 7 you could put in. The year that Auburn won a national title, everybody loved Cam Newton. You know who was great that year? Remember the defensive lineman that stopped Oregon? Nick Fairley shut Oregon's running game down completely. Chip Kelly said afterwards, we had to bail on the run. We couldn't run. Why isn't he at the Heisman? Why aren't we putting defensive guys in there?
They have to have one per year? That's very against your typical thinking.
When I say you have to, I say you have a defensive slot. You can have 5 guys it's not like I wouldn't be desperate. I'm not saying you have to have a kicker or a special teams gunner. I'm saying pick the best defensive guy he gets into. We don't give defensive guys any credit, and I'm not, I understand not doing it, but when's the last time we had a lineman up for any of these awards?
So you're for the award if it goes to a defensive player?
I'm for the TV show of the Heisman being better because it's unbearable to watch. And it should be a better television show. And if you put a defensive guy and got people cackling back and forth, it'd be a better TV show.
One of my favorite parts of working with Perky Jerky is their mission. Every time you or I buy a bag of the best tasting jerky on earth, Perky Jerky donates to support its 2 charitable causes, Down syndrome and Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And with your help, Perky Jerky's already helped fund groundbreaking early-stage research programs at nationwide children's hospitals in Columbus. And they've provided scholarships, for disabled boys with MD to attend special summer camps. How great. Keep that in mind when you're enjoying your favorite flavor of Perky Jerky.
We go to the Herd Hierarchy, my top 10 teams of the week since Monday Night Football is completed. Here we go.
Herd Hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Detroit's won 7 of 8, and they have 100% scoring efficiency in the red zone. Nobody in the NFL other than the Detroit Lions has been that good. Listen, Matt Stafford has always been a world-class talent. He was the best high school quarterback in the country. He was the best college quarterback when he came out in the country. But he was saddled with a chaotic front office and bad ownership. Now, when he gets reasonable coaching, he's a monster. Look at his numbers in the last 16 games. They're better than Aaron Rodgers. Lions at 10.
Number 9.
I just, out of respect for John Elway and the Denver Broncos front office and Gary Kubiak and that defense, I put him in here. They still lead the league in sacks. They still have the NFL's best pass defense, and they have more interceptions than touchdown passes allowed, 12-10. So I put them in. I don't think they're a team that could win a playoff game right now, though.
Number 8.
Green Bay Packers, believe it or not. Listen, judge a team by how they're playing now. Over the last 7 games, Aaron Rodgers is hot. 19 touchdowns, 3 picks. Over the last month and a half, Jordy Nelson has a touchdown in 5 of 6 games. It always takes them a little longer to get going, but right now, I don't think you'd want to go to Lambeau in that snow and play the Green Bay Packers. I have them at 8.
Number 7.
Thought about putting this team higher, and they probably will be with one more week. Did you see what they did to Miami? Baltimore at 7. Oh, my God. They've won 4 of 5, the lone loss being to Dallas in Dallas, and that was a good game. In the last 5 games, again, what are they doing now like Green Bay? Joe Flacco is completing 69.8% of his throws, and you can't run the football on him. So Green Bay and Baltimore start slow. Right now, you don't want to play them.
Number 6.
Pittsburgh Steelers, we had a feeling they would get hot in the second half. I don't love them yet because they are still too inconsistent. But their second half schedule is easier. They're 11-1 in their last 12 December games. Le'Veon Bell has 100-plus scrimmage yards in 8 of his 9 games this year. If Le'Veon Bell is healthy, they can control the clock. That helps out a very average defense, Steelers 6.
Number 5.
You know who's a great player in this league? Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs tight end. After Gronk, maybe the best tight end in football. Like, he's a nightmare matchup. They don't turn the ball over. They have the most takeaways in the league, so they take it from you and they don't give it back. They're 7-1 in their last 8. And in my opinion, they have the second best coach in the league in Andy Reid. And Eric Berry is one of the top 5 players in the league at safety. Chiefs at 5.
Number 4.
I got the New England Patriots. And I'm not kidding you. I could flip the Baltimore Ravens and the Patriots and be comfortable with it. Listen, Tom Brady leads the league in passer rating, and they're unbelievable in the first quarter. They've outscored opponents by 65 points in the first quarter, best in the league. So they lead every game. That's a big advantage. They can run the football and play action. They play a different defense when they have a lead, and they don't turn it over much. Only 2 in the last 5 games turnovers. But, man, tell me where their dynamic players are.
Number 3.
Seattle Seahawks, best scoring defense. 4 straight games they forced multiple turnovers. Unbeaten at home. I'm putting this on. I like their defense. I like Pete Carroll. I like him at home. I think Russell Wilson's inconsistent but dynamic. I'm putting the Seahawks at 3.
Number 2.
Are we going to start believing in the Raiders now? Like when they don't play well, they blow people out? 6 straight wins. You can't get to Derek Carr. They've allowed 13 sacks this year. You can't get to him. That's the fewest in the league. And now their defense in 4 straight games has forced multiple turnovers. And they're scoring 29 points a game, which is the most in the AFC. And by the way, the first half of the season, they were on the road. They were on the East Coast the first half of the season, of which they never lost a game. When are we going to start figuring out here? We're seeing something special. This is like this Green Bay team that Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl with. And everybody kind of fell asleep on until like week 11, 12, 13. You're like, oh, Green Bay's really good. Folks, Raiders number 2, they're really good.
Number 1.
Dallas Cowboys, 11 straight wins. They run the football. They pass the football. Dak Prescott, 5 games, no picks. They've won their last 4 by 10 or less, and people are saying, whoa, what does that mean? What it means is it's the NFL post-Thanksgiving. It's not easy to win games. They have not lost a road game that Dak and Tony Romo have started in 3 years. What does that mean? They travel well. Why do they travel well? Because their offensive line dominates the game, dominates the clock, dominates the tempo. Dallas Cowboys, best team in the league. You may be noticing I didn't put in those frauds, the New York Giants. And you may be noticing I struggled with Atlanta all year, and the minute they lost, I bumped them out. I bumped them out. I've been waiting to bump out Atlanta for like a month. I just don't buy them. Didn't buy the Giants. They were ridiculous. And I don't buy Atlanta.
Catch the Herd from noon to 3 Eastern on iHeartRadio and FS1.
Last week he called the Giants and the Steelers game. And this Sunday he's got the Seahawks and the Packers game. So he is the number 1 play-by-play guy for our network. He had the Cubs World Series. He gets all the good assignments. How
does that happen?
I know, well, because he's good. He never gets like the Browns, Jags. I always thought that would be tough. If you were a baseball announcer, and what if your team was like, you work your whole life to become a Major League Baseball announcer, and you get like a terrible team, and like 18 years, and you never make the playoffs. Isn't that a depressing job?
Yeah, but then there's always like the other side of it too, the local teams who broadcast the games all season long, and then it goes to the playoffs, and then the national broadcast takes over.
That'd be a bummer too.
Yeah.
So you're with the team all year, and then Joe Buck swoops in and gets all the love.
I always feel bad for those guys too.
He also has, Buck's got tattoos.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you, though.
No, I have one tattoo, and it's unfortunate. But his, I think he wanted.
You didn't want.
I didn't
yours.
want my tattoo.
How many tattoos does he have?
I have one, and I regret every day of my life that I have a tattoo.
Joe, did you know Colin has a tattoo also?
It's embarrassing.
I gave it to him.
Yeah. Get up here, Joe Buck.
Oh, okay.
He's got a new book out. There it is right there. Let's hear Joe Buck. Yeah, Joe Buck. Look at that. I was watching this weekend at Giants Steelers, and they showed where you were sitting at the game, and I'm like, that's a crappy seat. Do you watch the TV or the game?
As my age has crept closer and closer to 50, I'm TV.
Okay, I was gonna say.
And that is, all these different stadiums, you have a different, not only height, but a different angle.
Right.
So a lot of times, like in Heinz Field, it's hard to see the far sideline and to get an idea. It's hard to see the difference between the 8 and the 6. So I'll watch the TV, and the yellow line is on the TV. So many times I would get home and I'd watch a copy of the game, and I'm like bumbling around going, I don't know if it's a first down. And then you see it on TV, and the guy's 9 feet over the yellow line. People are going, this guy's dumber than I thought he was.
What's the best stadium to broadcast in?
Chicago or Green Bay? Green Bay is really good, but not as low. Chicago is, for some reason, it's low. Typically, it's better to be a little bit up. But the angle is so good that it's like you can see guys' facial expressions.
In Soldier Field?
In Soldier Field.
Wow.
We're down, tucked underneath.
Oh.
So there are fans right in front of us. It is easily the best seat in any house.
For the record, you obviously very smooth. And when I listen to the Cubs World Series, it's very, very easy for you. But you talk about in your book, you had a broadcast in the late 90s that was a bass fishing tournament that went horribly wrong. Can you tell me that?
Well, I just think by virtue of the description of the event, it was live, bass fishing, TV. Those things should never be in the same sentence.
How'd you get roped into that?
David Hill. He's like, it's going to be great. It's going to be the next NASCAR. And the only problem was somebody forgot to tell the fish to bite between 4:30 and 6 Eastern.
Hour and a half, no bites.
Hour and a half, basically nothing. And it was live, so It's like, so these guys have been fishing all day, and we had told them in a production meeting, all these different fishermen or anglers that were trying to win whatever the hell they were trying to win. Hey, at 4:30, we're coming on, so flip your microphone on and your earpiece on. Every one of them forgot to do it. So it'd be like, hey, let's go to Colin Cowherd. He's out on Lake Lulu. Colin, how they biting out there? All right, let's check in over here with Bob Jones. And it was, so not only was it that, but the great payoff was a weigh-in of fish. That's what you're building toward? That's the walk-off moment where somebody hits the scale? It sucks.
I grew up in a fishing village on the coast of Washington, so that is a big moment in my life.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not denigrating the sport.
But for
I'm
a broadcaster,
for live network television,
flat. Flat.
Yeah, it's a little flat.
Okay, so there's a great story. The 1998 home run chase, Mark McGwire is going to break the Roger Maris record.
Right.
And so do we have the call on this? I want to play the call. Okay, so let's play the call by Joe Buck. Let's play this thing here, Sammy.
The man of the hour, Mark McGwire, who is 0 for 1 tonight, his second at bat here in the fourth. Matt McGwire looks on, wondering if this is the at bat. Tuesday, September 8th, that Mark McGwire moves one place in front of Roger Maris.
Down the left field line, is it enough? Gone! There it is! 62! Touch first, Mark. You are the new single-season home run king. God, I used to be good.
That was good. You were really something.
That was a good call.
You were something back then.
Those were the days. I remember the next day, Michael Heastand of USA Today said it was a less than memorable call, and it was nothing like Al Michaels' "Do You Believe in Miracles?"
There's he's comparing you to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And he had a clock, by the way, going 5, 4, and that's when you gear up. You turn the jets on, and you go. You got 3 seconds. The puck's at mid-ice. It's going to happen. This happens in the blink of an eye.
And the story is you scripted something for that call.
I did. I made the mistake because everybody was asking me, for months, if it happens, what are you going to say? And I was like, I don't know I don't have no idea. I just call the game. And they're like, well, what are you going to say? It's going to be historic. And then I started to go to bed thinking about what I was going to say and waking up thinking about what I was going to say. And I wrote down some stupid line in my scorebook that was like, and there goes Mark McGwire around the bases and into the history books or something cheesy. And because that home run was barely fair.
Yeah.
And
barely gone.
over the wall, I had to watch because it would really be bad if my eyes go down to this dumb script that I wrote, and then I look up and it's like, I'm sorry, foul ball, just out of play off to the left of the foul pole. That'd be the end of my life.
So you learn, don't script stuff.
You can't. And, whether it's the Cubs winning their first World Series in over 100 years, or it's the home run, or it's the Steelers beating the Giants this last week, you just kind of have to rely on whatever comes out.
You've called 4 Dallas Cowboy games this year, and when you call them with Troy Aikman, Troy is still a megastar, especially in Dallas. Does it feel different to you as a broadcaster to do a Cowboy game with Troy?
Yeah, and I think there's pressure on him. I think anytime he reacts to the Cowboys quarterback situation, antennas go up, and he's got to walk a fine line. First of all, we're all friendly with Tony Romo. Secondly, he's been the 3-time Super Bowl champion quarterback that basically built the house that we're sitting in when we do the game. And finally, we've gotten to know Dak, and it's like, man, this guy is more impressive off the field than he is on. And so you can't get too wrapped up in all that stuff, and you've got this weird situation with a multi-million-dollar backup now and Tony Romo, who's holding the clipboard while this kid leads him to 11 straight wins. There's a lot of minds out there for him to kind of wander through. So we kind of talk about it a little bit before we go on the air, and then when he gets into the heart of it, I just save it for the air. I don't want to hear it now. I want to be able to react to whatever you're saying, and vice versa.
By the way, Jerry's an interesting fellow. You see Jerry Jones.
Cowboys.
Cowboys, Joe.
Cowboys.
Yeah, Dallas.
Stage him.
See, I always liked him. Because I think
I love him.
He drinks hard liquor and tells stories.
That's right.
Only thing he's missing is a gun in a holster.
Right.
I love him. I find him fascinating.
Yeah, I've never thought about it in those terms, oddly enough. But yeah, I admire the guy. You know, people in Dallas and Cowboy fans moan and groan about some of the general manager decisions that he's made. Well, look at this year. You know, people were ripping on him for drafting a running back as high as he did. They've done nothing but stock that offensive line. They find Dak Prescott in the 4th round. He's doing something right. And the amazing thing is he's one of the biggest stars, maybe the biggest star in the NFL. He has kept the Dallas Cowboys, who have been basically 500 up until this team since they were going to playoffs every year with Aikman at quarterback. And yet they're still the biggest TV draw. And people want to know what Jerry has to say, and a shot of him up there with his remote control up in his luxury suite,
right,
in his big dome, big old dome, big Vidya board.
Yeah, it's an amazing stadium.
It's amazing. Maybe rivaled by the new one in Minneapolis. It's built by the same people. And in some ways, it's a little more intimate, and it may surpass it.
Joe Buck joining us. He's got a new book. You can see it on the screen. It's got a swear word.
You just don't want to say the B word.
Yeah, you know.
Why?
Do you want to say it?
Lucky bastard. We can't in this world on this station.
Life, my dad, and the things I'm not allowed to say on TV.
You won't say bastard.
Well, I don't have a problem.
He called it a swear word.
Now, let me say this. You address something in the book, and I'm comfortable with this because I like you, that I thought was very funny. You addressed the Todd Zeal thing.
The gay thing?
I never heard about it.
Yeah, and I have a friend of mine who works with me, and he's like, why are you educating people on something that nobody knows, really? I mean, it was more around St. Louis. It was more...
People said they thought...
that Todd and I were gay, lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We weren't.
So you would know if you were.
I think I would remember that.
So how did you hear it? Like, usually you don't hear things when people are talking about me. I don't hear it.
It was started by a player. Todd and I were in the minor leagues together. Todd was, and I'm sure you probably know Todd. If you don't,
great player.
He's in L.A. Great player. Made a lot of money, a lot of different teams. But he was always kind of a little bit of a misfit. He's a smart guy. His brother is an aeronautics guy. He and I had the similar interests. We were in the minor leagues together, so we'd go see movies. You're looking for somebody to hang out with. And when he got to the big leagues, I got to the big leagues. And at that time in the collective bargaining agreement, players didn't have single rooms. So they had to room with somebody or pay extra to have their own room. I, as a member of the Cardinals radio team, got my own room. He was looking for a roommate, didn't really connect with any of his players. He's like, well, you want to we're hanging out anyway. And so then players are like, well, he shouldn't be rooming with a member of the media. And they were right. I didn't think of it that way, but it rubbed some players the wrong way. Torrey was the manager. He brought us into his office. He's like, look, guys, I don't care, but it doesn't look good to some players. And I get it. I got it.
Sure.
But a couple of players that I don't think like Todd started spreading that rumor, at least around the metropolis that is St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe DiMaggio struggled with players because he was smart. Smart people are in professional sports.
It's a weird life because you're up all night. You're back to the hotel late. Everybody goes to the hotel bar. Back then, and this wasn't the case with Zeal, I know personally, but a lot of guys were coming off greenies, so they drink themselves to sleep every night.
Really?
And that's what leads to a lot of the late nights at bars because amphetamines. If Major League Baseball's done one great thing in their drug testing, they've taken amphetamines out of the game, and they can test for that easily.
You knew they were around.
What's that?
When you were broadcasting, you knew they were everywhere.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, they used to mess around with one of the Cardinals had an old third base coach. They'd drop him in his coffee, and
You're up
be
all
like,
night.
Joe, watch him. Galen Pitts was the guy's name. Watch him today at third base coaching. I mean, he was going through the signs like he was going 1,000 miles an hour because somebody had put greenies unbeknownst to him in his coffee. Good thing he made it out of there alive.
Okay, you've been doing like 19 World Series?
Yeah.
Good God. Red Sox 2004, Cubs 2016 World Series. We have audio of both. Okay, so give me the Red Sox in 2004. Even though, give me it. Roll this, Sammy. All right, here we go.
Back to full.
Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. It has been 86 years. Generations have come and gone.
God, I remember that. That was great. Okay, I was living in the East Coast then. All right, now...
Not in the fishing village in the state of Washington?
I had bounced around the broadcasting industry, and I was now at a former employer. A miserable place to live.
About that.
Yeah. And then they let go of me. All right, this is the Cubs. This just happened. This was great. Let's roll the tape on this, Sammy.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs win the World Series!
God, that's goosebumps.
Bryant makes the play! It's over! And the Cubs have finally won it all! 8-7-10.
God. Now, that feels to me, they're both great calls. The Cubs meant more for me. Maybe because I like Chicago.
Well,
were they different for you?
Yeah, they were different for me. I think as great as it was for Boston, curse of the Bambino, they had come back down 3-0 to beat the Yankees, and nobody was going to stop them then. That was the best Cardinal team I saw, the 04 team. They had no chance against the Boston Red Sox with the kind of roll they were on, and it was a 4-game sweep. And the Red Sox had been there. They were there in 86, they lost. They were there in 75, they lost. They were there in 67, they lost. The Cubs hadn't been there since right after World War II.
That's amazing.
They hadn't won it since before the Titanic went down. Yeah, I mean, it was over 100 years. That felt like, my God. And at some point it hit me in the middle of that call like, holy blank, it's over. They did it.
I know.
And
the last great baseball story that was not closed.
Yeah,
Cleveland,
I mean,
kind of.
And the sad thing is that when you hear that in my voice, if I'm an Indians fan, it's what we've talked about 3,000 times, but it's like that's a moment I have to pay respect to in that way. I'm happy with that call. It would have been the same way for the Cleveland Indians, I'm sure. But, one team wins, one team loses, and the team that loses, those fans are going, this guy hates the Cleveland Indians. That's ridiculous.
Right.
But you have to honor the team that wins, and that's the battle I fight every year.
Yeah, I still think your bass fishing calls were pretty good.
Those were good. Those were really good. When I said I said this on national television. So as you know, these fishermen are out there and trying to catch bass, and obviously the name of the game is the bigger the bass, the better off they are. Wow. I mean,
That's
that is like the
good.
dumbest thing anybody's ever uttered. Really? That's what so they're not trying to catch smaller fish.
Oh, okay. Here's his book, Lucky Bastard.
You said it.
My life, my dad, the things
We didn't get into hair plugs. We didn't get into the tattoo. We didn't get into my love for my
what's the story
dad.
with the tattoos?
Okay,
How many do you
don't
have?
go anywhere. Just stay here. All right, we'll come back with Buck in a second, The Herd. Joe Buck joining us. New book, Lucky Bastard, My Life, My Dad, The Things I'm Not Allowed to Say on TV. This week, Seahawks-Packers. That's going to be really Green Bay season nutshell here.
Yep.
They got to win that game. Detroit's playing out of their mind.
They
Stafford.
seem to find themselves in this position quite a bit.
Yeah, and they're good in December. Steelers-Packers, always good in December.
Yeah.
Play very, very well at home. So, a tattoo thing. I got mine regrettably. I lost a race at ESPN, and I did it, and I regret it every day of my life. Yours is around the
What is it?
Oh, it's a here.
By the way, he lost a race. Doesn't
That's
that
me.
sound funny?
That's mine.
Yours looks great. So I'm going to let you tell your story. I lost a race, and so they said, "What do you want to get?" And I said, "I'd never had a tattoo. I'm not a tattoo guy." And so at the time, I was going to Vegas a lot and gambling, so I got a
Drinking.
Yeah, and then OJ trial had just finished, and my kid's initials are
Judge Ito.
OJ, so I put a J-O. I reversed it. Because I didn't want to have OJ with a Vegas symbol. I'm like, oh, good God, what message does that send?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's mine. That's pathetic. So let's talk about your tattoo.
And ironically enough, OJ would later get arrested in Vegas.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So tell me your story.
Just kind of messages to myself. That so what thing is when my dad, the B word that you don't want to say in my book title.
Yeah.
I am that. I came along at a time that, let's say, my dad wasn't expecting, as he was married with 6 kids and had met my mom, and then they got married 7.5 minutes before I was born. And so that's how I came onto the earth. And my mom was dealing with a lot of things around St. Louis, including with his first family and the kids. And he had given her a bracelet that said, "So what?" Like, so what? We're living our lives. We're in love. We're going to do our thing. And I when I went through divorce and went through depression and almost lost my voice and that was something I put on my not so big bicep. And as a reminder that when I'm in the mirror and forcing myself to look at myself in a towel, I see so what.
And your life's okay.
My life's good. I mean, yeah, my life's better than good. I am the lucky part in my book title should be way bigger than the B word because I am lucky. I came along at the perfect time. Fox got into the game and they start covering the NFL. I'm at the right age. Had never done the NFL. Came out here for an audition. Went well. Then I get hired to do football. Had never done football. Then they get baseball, and I'm doing that. And it just the timing has been so lucky and fortuitous that, I've been fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
Are you ever, I tell people this, that you don't root for teams, but you do root for good games. So, for instance, if a game's 27-0, you're rooting for the nothing to get to 26.
Yes.
Generally, you're rooting because you want a bigger audience. Do you find yourself ever having to check yourself? Because you're not a fan. I know how you think. I do the same way. I'm looking for dumpster fires and three-alarm blazes. I'm looking for stuff that's interesting. My audience swells. Have you ever been like with the Cubs this year? Hard not to get caught up into it.
Yeah, no, it was. And have I ever had to check myself? No, because I feel like any different than when I'm playing golf. I've played golf with people that are like, how do you not talk like this when you're on the air? Like with the words I might use if a putt doesn't go in.
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
get that.
They're like, how do you not? And I said, well, because when that headset goes on my head, it's like my stupid little cape and how in my world, like I know I'm a different person when that thing's on. I'm not rooting for or against. I'm rooting for the game. I'm rooting for, in a postseason series, volume of games. But I don't think that way any more than I'm going to say the F word on Sunday with the Packers and the Seahawks. There's nothing that will happen where I will say that on the air unless somebody catches me off the air saying it and plays it. I don't think that way.
Do you think you've ever had problems? And I thought this network did a really good thing to put you on the World Series. We got a minute left. But when you were doing baseball and they shifted you into football, baseball probably didn't like that. In 45 seconds, do you ever feel like you owe baseball a little more love? Because football's gotten big, but you're a baseball guy at start.
Yeah, and yeah, but I don't think they worry about that. I think if I'm sitting in that seat, or Veskurgen sitting in that seat, or Brenneman sitting in that seat, or Kenny Albert sitting in that seat, people are going to watch. And if it's a compelling series and game, they're going to stay with it. And if it's not, they're going to go on to something else. And this year just happened to be a record-setting fun season and postseason that I don't think any of us will ever forget.
Well, I didn't get to your hair plugs because I don't frankly care, and I couldn't tell anyway. And you've got a beautiful wife, and you're amazing.
It's the story about the hair
book. I guess you're going to have to get the book.
I know the story.
Get the book, Lucky Bastard Life, Dad.